I love you, and I'm so sorry. He has my mom, and I have to try. I know it may not work. I'm so very, very sorry. Don't be angry with Alice and Jasper. If I get away from them, it will be a miracle. Tell them thank you for me. Alice especially, please. And please, please don't come after him. That's what he wants, I think. I can't bear it if anyone has to be hurt because of me, especially you. Please. This is the only thing I can ask of you now. For me. I love you. Forgive me, Bella. I folded the letter carefully and sealed it in the envelope. Eventually he will find it. I only hoped that he would understand and listen to me just this once. And then I carefully sealed away my heart. Chapter 22. Hide and Seek. It had taken much less time than I thought. All the terror, the despair, the shattering of my heart. The minutes were ticking by more slowly than usual. Jasper still hadn't come back when I had returned to Alice. I was afraid to be in the same room with her, afraid that she would guess, and afraid to hide from her for the same reasons. I would have thought that I was far beyond the ability to be surprised, but my thoughts tortured and unstable. But I was surprised when I saw Alice bent over the desk, gripping the edge with two hands. Alice? She didn't react when I called her name, but her head was slowly rocking side to side, and I saw her face. Her eyes were blank, dazed. My thoughts flew to my mother. Was I already too late? I hurried to her side, reaching out automatically to touch her hand. Alice! Jasper's voice whipped, and then he was right behind her, his hands curling over hers, loosening them from their grip on the table. Across the room, a door swung shut with a low click. What is it? He demanded. She turned her face away from me into his chest. Bella, she said. I'm right here, I replied. Her head twisted around, her eyes locking on mine, her expression still strangely blank. I realized at once that she hadn't been speaking to me. She'd been answering Jasper's question. What did you see? I said, and there was no question in my flat, uncaring voice. Jasper looked at me sharply. I kept my expression vacant and waiting. His eyes were confused as they flickered swiftly between Alice's face and mine, feeling the chaos, for I can guess what Alice has seen now. I felt the tranquil atmosphere settle around me. I welcomed it, using it to keep my emotions disciplined under control. Alice too recovered herself. Nothing really, she answered finally, her voice remarkably calm and convincing. Just the same room as before. She finally looked at me, her expression smooth and withdrawn. Did you want breakfast? No, I'll eat at the airport. I was very calm too. I went to the bathroom to shower, almost as if I was bridling Jasper's strange extra sense. I could feel Alice's wild, though well-concealed desperation to have me out of the room, to be alone with Jasper, so that she can tell him that they were doing something wrong, that they were going to fail. I got ready methodically, concentrating on each little task. I left my hair down and swirling around me, covering my face. The peaceful mood Jasper created worked its way through me and helped me think clearly, helped me plan. I dug through my bag until I found my sock full of money. I emptied it into my pocket. I was anxious to get to the airport, and glad when we left by 7. I sat alone this time in the back of the dark car. Alice leaned against the door, her face towards Jasper, but behind her sunglasses, shooting glances at my direction every few seconds. Alice? I asked indifferently. She was wary. Yes? How does it work, the things that you see? I stared out the side window, and my voice sounded bored. Edward said it was indefinite. The things change. It was harder than I would have thought to say his name. That must have been what alerted Jasper, why a fresh wave of serenity filled the car. Yes, things change, she murmured. Hopefully, I thought. Some things are more certain than others, like the weather. People are harder. I'd only seen the course they're on while they're on it. Once they change their minds, make a new decision, no matter how small, the whole future shifts. I nodded thoughtfully. So you couldn't see James in Phoenix until he decided to come here? Yes, she agreed, wary again. And she hadn't seen me in the mirror with James until I had made the decision to meet him there. I tried not to think about what else she had seen. I didn't want my panic to make Jasper more suspicious. They'll be watching me twice as carefully now anyway, after Alice's vision. This is going to be impossible. We got to the airport. Luck was with me. Or maybe it was just good odds. Edward's plane was landing in Terminal 4, the largest terminal where most flights landed, so it wasn't surprising that his was. But it was the terminal I needed, the biggest, the most confusing. And there was a door on level 3 that might be the only chance. We parked on the first floor of the huge garage. I led the way, for once more knowledgeable about my surroundings than they were. We took the elevator down to level 3, where the passengers unloaded. Alice and Jasper spent a long time looking at the departing flights board. I can hear them discussing the pros and cons of New York, Atlanta, Chicago, places I'd never seen and would never see. I waited for my opportunity, impatient, unable to stop my toe from tapping. We sat in the long rows of chairs by the metal detectors, Jasper and Alice pretending to people watch, but really watching me. Every inch I shifted in my seat was followed by a quick glance out of the corner of their eyes. It was hopeless. Should I run? Would they dare to stop me physically in this public place? Or would they simply follow? I pulled the unmarked envelope out of my pocket and set it on top of Alice's black leather bag. She looked at me. My letter, I said. She nodded, tucking it under the top flap. He will find it soon enough. The minutes passed and Edward's arrival grew closer. It was amazing how every cell in my body seemed to know he was coming, too long for his coming. That made it very hard. I found myself trying to think of excuses to stay, to see him first, and then make my escape. But I knew that was impossible if I was going to have any chance to get away. Several times Alice offered to go get breakfast with me. Later, I told her. Not yet. I sat at the arrival board watching as flight after flight arrived on time, a flight from Seattle closer to the side of the board. And then, when I had only 30 minutes to make my escape, the numbers changed. His plane was 10 minutes early. I had no more time. I think I'll eat now, I said quickly. Alice stood. I'll come with you. Do you mind if Jasper comes instead? I asked. I'm feeling a little... I didn't finish a sentence. My eyes were wild enough to convey what I didn't say. Jasper stood up. Alice's eyes were confused, but I saw to my relief, not suspicious. She must be attributing the change in her vision to some maneuver of the trackers, rather than a betrayal by me. Jasper walked silently beside me, his hand on the small of my back, as if he were guiding me. I pretended a lack of interest at the first few effort cascades, my head scanning for what I really wanted, and there it was, around the corner, out of Alice's sharp sight, the level 3 ladies' room. Do you mind? I asked Jasper as we passed. I'll just be a moment. I'll be right here, he said. As soon as the door shut behind me, I was running. I remember the time when I had gotten lost from this bathroom because it had 2 exits. Outside the far door was only a short sprint to the elevators, and if Jasper stayed where he said he would, I would never be in his line of sight. I didn't look behind me as I ran. This was my only chance, and even if he saw me, I had to keep going. People stared, but I ignored them. Around the corner the elevators were waiting, and I dashed forward, Throwing my hand between the closing doors of the full elevator headed down, I squeezed in beside the irritated passengers and checked to make sure that the button for level 1 had been pushed. It was already lit and the doors closed. As soon as the door opened, I was off again, to the sound of no murmurs behind me. I slowed myself as I passed the security guards by the luggage carousels, only to break into a run again as the exit doors came into view. I had no way of knowing if Jasper was looking for me yet.